I'm Evan Parker, saxophone player. Here we are in London. The truth about your past can't change too much. You can try and change it, but the fact is I tried very hard to play modern jazz in the style of John Coltrane, like I would guess thousands of men my age. This morning and yesterday I listened to this new Jimmy Giuffre recording of trios and quartets that's just been discovered from New York, which was a very quiet period, I guess, was for Jimmy Giuffre. I've been reading again, doing some research about Warren Marsh, and of course whenever Coltrane, new material from Coltrane comes, or new material from Eric Dolphy. Somebody kindly sent me some unreleased Eric Dolphy. It's a new CD from Japan. It's some great outtakes from the Iron Man sessions and the I guess, what would the other record have been? Anyway, you get the flavor of nothing much changes. I mean, I don't think teenagers of a certain kind ever really grow up, and maybe we're all teenagers of a certain kind. So Coltrane, Dolphy, Ornette, Sonny Rollins, Wayne Shorter, all the great players that were ahead of me, and at the same time I listened to contemporary, the Stockhausen and Boulez and the leaders of European contemporary music, and John Cage and the American school of aleatoric music and so on. And then fairly soon after that I started to listen to world musics, ethnic musics as they clumsily call them, taking different bits from everywhere really, and the new sources really remain the same. I'm still hearing recordings of old jazz records from that period, from the early 60s onwards. Tomorrow I will play at the Vortex with a trio that I've been working with for some time now, with John Edwards on bass and John Russell on amplified acoustic guitar, steel strum. A very happy little trio. I think we all enjoy it. And tomorrow's concert is slightly special because we have a guest, Sam Bailey, piano player from Canterbury. Is a very active maker of things to happen. Mover and shaker, what we sometimes say. Well, I don't say that. That's what they say in the newspapers. On Friday, I'll play in the Turner Contemporary. It's a nice Chipperfield building in Margate, right on the sea. A very good art gallery. I'm going to play down there. And the next day, I'll play also in Margate, but there's a small theatre there called the Tom Thumb Theatre, and I'll play a duo concert with Matthew Wright, with the group we call Transmap. The next week I'm going to go to Ludlow in Shropshire to meet Tony Bianco, the drummer, the American drummer, and Paul Dunwall, and we'll do some recording in trio with 2 saxophones and drums. We did one project already with Dave Liebman, and it worked pretty well. And Paul Dunwall and Tony have done a lot of playing together. So this is Tony's next project with 2 saxophone players. Saturday I'll go to Glasgow, and Sunday there I play a solo concert, and as a guest with the Glasgow Improvisers Orchestra. A solo concert on the beach in France. I have to go to the North Sea Jazz Festival to play with John Escreet. I have to go to the Kongsberg Jazz Festival to play with Peter Brotzman and Joe McPhee. This June has been one of the craziest months of my life. And I realize there are limits, and maybe I exceeded the limit. July and August are rest periods, rest and recuperation. I read in the sleeve notes to the Liebman CD that I had for breakfast that Liebman's idea is that he should illustrate freedom, the possibility of freedom in an age where freedom is very difficult to have for people. That's rather probably optimistic. I think that by the time people are ready to listen to my music or Liebman's music, they're already to some degree free. They've made the sufficient moves to distance themselves from the culture, the cultural norms, where their freedom is not really dependent, or their sense of their own freedom is not really derived from listening to your music. They're listening to your music because they already have a sense of freedom. Nevertheless, I think it's reasonable to say that you're supporting other people's senses of freedom, senses of the ability to choose outside the mainstream, to take a different path, to not do what the corporate powers would have them do, to not consume, not to be the perfect consumer. Although it's getting harder and harder not to fit some model or other of what it is to be a consumer. I consume, therefore I am, is the model that's being imposed everywhere. And to the extent that we can raise questions about the whats and the whys of that pattern of social development, then our music may have some small role to play in that. I hope so. But it's largely for my own liberation and I enjoy the company of fellow musicians, and we enjoy, between us, trying to make something that meets our own standards. And if we can carry an audience with us, well, we're very happy. By chronological measurement, I must be definitely approaching the end phase of my life as a musician. Although one can take inspiration from U.B. Blake and Sonny Rollins and all the great players, Roy Haynes, all the great players that carry on playing into their 80s and 90s, and even Elliot Carter, the mighty Elliot Carter, still composing at 103 or 104 or whatever it was. Amazing. There are amazing exceptions to the rule, but the general tendency is for people to have reached more or less a final phase of their work by the time they get to my age, 70. I still feel I've got some interesting things to work on, but I guess the crucial thing is how much longer does the community of listeners and promoters and fellow musicians, that total context, which is the support mechanism for my survival as an individual musician, how much longer do they support that view? I have to convince those three different factions that I'm still alive and I still have something interesting to say. That's an intense problem. Not without interest.